Siblinghood is a weird thing, man. It's meant to be all like, yeah, I got your back.
Bros.
Nobody touches my family.
Bros.
But most of the time it ends up just being like, if you don't stop farting on my pillow, I'll push you down the stairs.
Bro.
Oh, sisters too, of course. And for the bots, it's no different. Even sometimes drifting into hatred, obsession, and sometimes they get on just fine. But as we're going to see in this video, being a twin or a sibling in Transformers
ends well.
Oh, you can help remind the algorithm gods that we exist by hitting that little like button down there.
Cruel algorithm god.
Alright, let's start with the Stalker twins, Moonheart and Luna Club, who were created by Mega Empress to complete her elite guard lineup with Flow Spade and Trick Diamond. Together they stormed Shockwave's facility on a rescue mission, after Shocky Baby managed to take Mega Empress and Flow Spade prisoner and kept them in stasis. They came up against Skyrain, but Mega Empress managed to decombine him back into his component bots, and Moonheart sedated the limb components with this healing pheromone that she had.
Because yes, pheromones can affect robots.
And basically leached their energon. Oh, also forced them to reveal their combination joints and then amputated them. Bloody hell. Using this energon, Moonheart and the rest of the four guards combined with Mega Empress to form Megatronia to combat Optimus Maximus, and later took on Unicron before she and her sister gave Mega Empress a bath. Yeah, Japanese continuity, what do you expect? Before she got tackled by her sister, and they had a roll around. Yeah, Japanese continuity, what do you expect? Throughout this thing, she had a crush on Soundwave, so followed him to the Legends world and kind of stalked him until the Legends world was destroyed. But if you thought that was bad, her twin, Luna Club, is even more immature and hyper. After the battle with Galvatron and Skyrain, she ran after Starscream, begging him to possess her.
Take me!
And when he refused, he got pissed off and vowed to kill him, eventually cutting his fucking head off. Not to kill him, because obviously he's immortal, but just to stop him running away, before Megatron ordered her to be cast in some Tigatron and Octane smut. Randomly, she appeared as one of the last surviving members of the Cybertronian race in Last Bot Standing, where the remaining bots were forced to travel from planet to planet, breeding and harvesting organic life to turn them into biofuel that would sustain the bots whilst there was no energon. Things kicked off in a big way when Rodimus showed up and turned out that he had energon in his possession, so the bad guys combined into Unstoppimus. Shit, I should have had him in my most obscure combiner list. But anyway, he tried to crush Rodimus's head.
Rodimus did not like that at all.
But because they were so weak from lack of energon, Rodimus managed to get the better of it and ripped his canister off his shoulders, the component bots crashing into stasis lock, apart from Luna Club, who begged for mercy. So he imprisoned her in an orbiting pod to float around the planet forever. To be honest, I think her sister would be grateful. I mean, she's probably dead at this time. Alright, quick 30-second interlude to tell you about TRANSFORVERSE.EU, European Transformer store for all your action figures, upgrade kits, etc. They've given me some figures to give away in exchange for me plugging their site, so make sure you're checking out the affiliate link below. Help support me as well. If you want to win one of these, DM me on Twitter, Mr.Normal_person, and you could have a leader class action figure coming your way. Aight? Then there's Rack and Ruin, who were deliberately grafted together to save their lives, and so now have had to develop their own style of melee combat. And they got good at it too. So good that they got inducted into the elite strike force, the Wreckers. They were involved in a mission to find an Optimus imposter in the Marvel Comics right here, and Rack and Ruin got their guy, except it turned out to be the real Optimus. They got captured by Flame right here before they broke out, fought off some zombies, and managed to get Flame before he blew up the whole of Cybertron. They did pretty well against Galvatron too, but had to pull back to prevent spiraling collateral damage. And the whole mission got written off as a failure, prompting the Wreckers to team up with their con counterparts, the Mayhem Attack Squad, to try and stop him ripping up all of space-time. But in the battle, our boys were probably the first to get a taste of Galvatron's fusion cannon, and they died.
Later.
They got burnt by Circuit Smasher, then teamed up with him and helped clear a bunch of autoguns for him to reach a crashed spaceship and take down its rogue security system. Remember, Auntie? They acted as a security force for Hot Rod, then attacked Soundwave's base right here. They helped destroy the Dark Matrix and stopped a possessed Fort Max from killing Ultra Magnus, for having helped save the universe from a multiversal Dark Matrix entity, after which they lived out their days to die of old age. Wow, a unicorn! Both brothers had a natural death. Gee willikers. In Transformers 84, he managed to get a hammer blow onto Abominus's face, which felled the big guy. And the Wreckers' performance overall was what persuaded Prime to make them their own autonomous independent unit. In Cyberverse, they got blasted into space by Soundwave. imprisoned in the Quintesson mind loop, had their pile of crates bashed over multiple times, had to see their hero Jetfire decapitated. They done got captured. They shot Astrotrain. Completely ineffectively, got slapped up by Astrotrain. Did manage to rescue Ratchet and Jetfire.
Best mission ever!
And yes, I did have to re-record that whole section because I'd referred to Rack and Ruin as him. And you know, you gotta get your pronouns right. Like my pronouns are fuckface and potato. And anytime anyone calls me any different, I get pissed off. Like all the times they come up to me and they're like, "You can't urinate at this bus stop, sir." And I'm like, "What did you just call me, sir?" Once again, it was IDW that expanded upon their characters, showing that they weren't always conjoined. In fact, that they weren't always twins. They were once triplets. But the third died. Their distinctive heads were actually sensory deprivation helmets, implying that they had some kind of sensory problem, needing help filtering, or they'd get overstimulated.
You got meds for that, innit?
Where the fuck have you been?
You knocked my head off with the giant pill and baby potatoes came out of my severed neck. Remember?
Oh yeah. And their actual faces look like this. On top of that, their T-cogs were worn out as well. And on top of all of that, they were also originally cons who got caught after blowing up a spaceport. And it was during their incarceration that they confided in Prime that they were pretty small time and hated the idea of being bonded to each other. Opie wasn't particularly sensitive to their plight though, but when they helped out during an attack by Thundercracker, Opie let them join the rank. Then there was a time jump in the plot, and they were suddenly joined together without too much of an explanation, other than them referencing some medical condition to Impactor. They took part in the legendary battle with Squadron X and agreed to help cover up Impactor's murder of the Decepticon faction before they died at some point off screen, off panel, if you know what I mean. Somehow I doubt it was as peaceful as in Transformers 84, you know, IDW being IDW.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, moving on, in the 3H comics, Roulette and Shadow Striker were siblings, and they also started out with a triplet. Unfortunately, the triplet was just part of their superhero origin story though, because she was killed early on by Maraudicons. This made this incarnation of Shadow Striker turn to crime, whereas Roulette went to the other extreme and went into crime fighting. Later, they were both abducted by Unicron, and Roulette had to face her sister, who'd succumbed to his influence, probably because he'd exploited the darkness within her, and Roulette had to leave her behind when they were forced to flee. Prowl had a duplicate in a storybook called Deadly Paradise. Yeah, Mechs took them all prisoner and revealed to Prowl that he had a plot to make duplicates of all the Autobots, especially Optimus. But Prowl managed to get loose and tricked Mechs into blasting the duplicate and not him, which gave him the time to pew-pew Mechs a few times, with his laser eyes, I guess. Like so fucking angel. Everyone escaped, and everyone lived happily ever after. Whoopee. If we're including clones on this list, you have to include Sunstorm. But you know what? I want to give him his own vid at some point, so let's make him a notable mention for now. In animated, Jetfire and Jetstorm were originally just humble repair bots, viewed as expendable by the leadership, so when they got in an accident, they were picked by the Elite Guard to undergo an experiment to duplicate Decepticon abilities. Which Decepticon abilities specifically, we don't know. But they had... strange noise segment of the show, ladies and gents. But they had Decepticon coding integrated into their softwares and turned them into brash, loud, immature, but insanely powerful bots. Their power as individuals was already pretty hardcore, with Jetfire able to create huge I'm still tasting whatever it was I burped up earlier. With Jetfire able to create huge jets of flame, and Jetstorm, these massive gusts of winds. But on top of that, they could combine together into a mega jet, or into a robot called Safeguard. Together they defeated Ramjet, Grimlock, Snarl and Swoop, and Crimzeek. And they fought Optimus, Ratchet, Bulkhead, Prowl, Bumblebee, Wasp, Omega Supreme, Lugnut, Blitzwing, Swindle to a standstill. So they were pretty powerful. Simicore and Groundbuster from RID had the exact same body type, and it's not stated anywhere that they're brothers, but they look so similar. Now obviously they just reused the same character model, but in my headcanon they are related in some way. Same with Grindor and Blackout, as well as Demolisher and Scavenger from Revenge of the Fallen, although with those two we did get somewhat of an explanation, it being detailed in the comics that the body type was one of the early Constructicon drones used to build Star Harvesters. I mean, yeah, all of these are really a case of the old recolor the body, swap the hairs. How could we forget partners in crime, Rumble and Frenzy? Born of Soundwave's chest wound. Oh, that's not right. These guys are a couple of little nasty meanies that can unleash a huge amount of destruction considering their small size. They're quick to anger and become violent, and the fact that they don't bicker as much as some others on this list
Oh man, you shot me in the face!
means that they're pretty effective when they want to be. They were among the originals to crash after invading the Autobots' Ark, and once they awoke, they swore not to rest until all the Autobots were dead. They set out to build a base for themselves, so attacked a nuclear power plant with Frenzy using his sonic abilities to block the workers' distress calls. He'd again used the ability to get back at Brawn when Brawn took out Rumble, and tried to rescue him, but they were trapped by Spider-Man of all people. As Rumble was being repaired by Shockwave, Frenzy's anger nearly got out of control, and he had to be subdued by Buzzsaw when he heard that the humans had developed basically an anti-transformer gun. Together, Starscream and Frenzy staged an attack on the unveiling of the new weapon, with Frenzy's sonic powers once again sowing havoc amongst the crowd. But when the Autobots stepped in to defend, Frenzy was crushed beneath a load of magnetically attracted objects, forcing them to retreat, Starscream having to carry our angry little amigo off the battlefield. Frenzy ambushed and captured B right here, but got outsmarted by Buster Witwicky when he had a full-powered sonic attack reflected back at him by some gizmo Buster had just fitted to his battlesuit. He got blasted by Omega Supreme right here, and was held captured by the Autobots for quite some time. The brothers went on a mission to revive Darkwing right here, and when overwhelmed by a cosmic entity called the Swarm, Wheeljack offered to give him a little soup up. The upgrade wasn't without risk though, and the amount of sonic energy he put out was too much for his little body to handle. He died. In G1, they managed to take down Skywarp when he got too big for his boots. They cooperated in chaotic urban combat, attacking Autobots in Central Park, and split duties to distract the Autobots, with Frenzy running interference and Rumble going in for the tactical strike. I'm sure you can remember that moment in the movie when Soundwave's honor was insulted.
Hey, nobody calls Soundwave uncharismatic.
Frenzy and Rumble defended their cassette family. Together, they used their pile drivers to shake Astro Train so violently that it caused Devastator to separate. Just don't think about how Devastator fit inside Astro Train. Just don't think about it. They triggered devastating earthquakes in Japan and posed as humans, preaching against the Autobots in cities, spreading propaganda to fan distrust. These two were some of the first to band in with mechs in IDW, where they were harvesting energon in the mines as industrial equipment. Once Soundwave came into the picture, Megatron ordered that they trade their vehicle modes for a form that would fit inside Soundwave's chest compartment. They kind of resented giving up their vehicle mode, but saw the importance of Megs' plan to use Soundwave as a Trojan horse to smuggle in these little assassin guys past security to take out a senator or two and procure weapons for Megatron's looming coup and uprising. Later, Frenzy would use his ability to instill panic and fear amongst the civilians present, causing the crowd to turn on Orion Pax, whilst Rumble did what he did best, pretty much brought down the whole city, and enabled Soundwave's escape. All Hail Megatron went into Frenzy's mental destabilization, which kind of started when the two were separated for a while. So in All Hail Megatron, the cons managed to maroon the Autobots on Cybertron and declared war on Earth and open season on any skin sack humans. And when confronted with the large regiment of human army, Frenzy went nuts and used his sonic attack to mentally shred them before getting stuck in with his drill arms. It's pretty horrific. Now, it was said that him losing his mind like this was a reaction to him not being immune to the effects of his own attack, which of course he'd been using for thousands of years. Then, when the cons were eventually pushed back, he was left stranded on Earth and took a step even closer to the brink as he started mutilating cattle while talking to himself. But later, when he was brought back together with his brother, Frenzy seemed to rebalance a little, as if them being separated might have contributed to his brain going all out of whack. I mean, he does say Master, where have you gone a bunch of times here, but I don't know if he was referring to Megatron, Soundwave, or some daddy dom. Rumble and Frenzy attacked a Skywatch base together, freeing imprisoned Decepticons, with Frenzy's sonic attack incapacitating Ultra Magnus, Prowl, and Brawn, before Rumble had both his arms amputated by RC. Oh, and his face stomped too. Stompy, stompy. Before both brothers were given a big upgrade and tank alt modes. With his new body, Rumble used his pile drivers to knock out Sideswipe and was ready to take his revenge on RC, but Ironhide intervened and bopped him across the winch hole. Frenzy's new body doubled the power of his sonic attacks, but luckily for the Autobots, the thin atmosphere diminished the power of his sonic waves, so Ironhide just stepped in and clobbered him upside the winch hole. After this failed battle, many cons started to find Soundwave's leadership style uncharismatic, openly challenging him and even attacked him. But luckily his boys were there to defend. At one point, Frenzy had to watch Galvatron slam Rumble into a wall out of frustration. But he was back on his feet pretty quickly, and the twins coordinated to attack Old Boy Cup before they got motorbike alt modes to give them extra speed for a mission where they went after Spike Witwicky. Then Rumble and Frenzy became arms dealers, stockpiling confiscated armaments and selling the Cybertronian tech to humans fearful of the next incident that would require them to defend themselves. They got overrun by Sharktons right here before their gun running got busted by the good guys, but because bringing the operation out into the open would make the bots look even worse in the eyes of the humans, the Autobots brushed it under the carpet. Let's just forget about that. So the bros went into the movie industry, setting up a company called Tape Bros, and they made a movie called Dark Invasion, which did terribly at the box office. They fought with Scotty before getting boomed by the Klingons, and Duke shoved a grenade in his mouth right here. He impaled Brainstorm right here, which set off a chain of events that would lead to them defecting to Exarchon's leadership, who sent them to hunt Autobot scouts. And then at one point later, Frenzy was trapped in a cave-in, and an Autobot called Landmine, who would have normally helped him, recalled Brainstorm's killing, so left Frenzy to be buried alive. Frenzy also got curbed by Optimus in the Energon universe. So harsh. He caught him in midair by the leg and then smashed him down, hitting the oh my god. How does that even happen? This was after he had to watch his friend Reflector get blasted to pieces. Look at this, the top of his head's come off. I think when things pick up again, I'll do most violent moments in Transformers, and this will definitely be on there. Okay, up next we got OP and Magnus from RID, or Fire Convoy and God Magnus if you want to get really nerdy. Were slightly different in that they were both created by Alpha Trion during the Golden Age. The fact that they were raised and trained together didn't mean much when Vector Sigma chose Prime to bear the Matrix, prompting Magnus to leave Cybertron in a huff the very same day, jealous and spiteful and all that shit. He would later show up on Earth, quickly demonstrating his case for why he should have gotten the Matrix by single-handedly defeating Ruination, something that none of the other Earth-based Autobots had been able to do up till that point. That probably means that he was the older and the more experienced of the two, and he was noticeably more powerful. I mean, before this, he tried to kill Opie by literally shooting 1 million bullets into him, then forcing him into a ravine.
Watch your step!
But the arc would be about him learning that it's not just about who was stronger. The relationship between the brothers was two conflicting things. On one hand, the resentment that Magnus was passed over, which clashed with his instinct to protect. Because he would often just show up out of nowhere to save him. Like here when he drove across the ocean. He would claim he was only here to take the Matrix off of OP, which wasn't all just bravado and bluster because he did force OP to combine with him into Omega Prime in order to leech Prime's energy, leaving him vulnerable so he could take the Matrix. But Prime managed to get mental control of Omega Prime and used its superior power to batter the Decepticon forces. And the two would repeat this trick throughout the series, with Ultra Magnus showing up to help and even going undercover to infiltrate the cons at one point. Scourge also tried to use the chip on his shoulder to try and get him to join the cons, but he remained loyal, even though he would never admit that he cared about the Autobots, let alone his brother. I mean, the fact that he would often appear right in the nick of time indicates that he was constantly watching the Autobots. While he said this was to find opportunities to swipe the Matrix, it's very likely that he was also looking out for Optimus. But like I said, he did manage to put his brother and the Autobots first, eventually coming up against Galvatron, who would have beaten them were it not for Fort Mac adding his awesome power to the Matrix, which then formed the Matrix Blade, and enabled them to bring Galvatron's rampage to a halt. I thought it was pretty interesting in the final episode when Magnus seemed to soften quite a bit when Optimus asked him to help instead of bluntly ordering him to, which I guess tells us that he didn't like OP's bossiness. Like, no one likes being told what to do by a younger sibling, do they? Before Magnus eventually left to take the Decepticon prisoners back to Cybertron aboard Fortress Maximus. Also in the 3H comics, they'd merge into Omega Prime again to join Primus's army to fight Unicron. And later, they fought Nemesis Prime, with Ultra Magnus holding Nemesis Prime to a stalemate just to give Optimus the time he needed to recover. Okay, next up we had Autobots Rumbler and Sprocket from the Wings universe. Now they were part of the Elite Guard stealth team. And this one is interesting because Sprocket got his brain fried during a mission and ended up in a sort of mental institution. And his brother and his team had to break him out. Once out, he would regularly talk to an imaginary friend and would have outbursts when questioned about it. All the same, he was sent on a mission to take down a con called Gut Cruncher and stop him securing an asteroid and procuring some fancy new power source. So they stowed away on this ship and everyone raised a sussy eyebrow when he claimed that he'd made best friends with the ship's computer. But then he forgot to load the team's weaponry, resulting in them getting captured. But despite all his calamities, they managed to pull off a successful mission, mostly because of them encountering a crystal that gave them enhanced strength. Anyway, Rumbler was later killed by Shockwave, although Sprocket kept on speaking to him as his new imaginary friend. 2005 IDW established this planet called Divisian. which became one of the Cybertronian colonies when a titan called Defician crashed into its surface. Now, this planet, where something to do with the planet's twin suns, created a mutation among the spark hotspot field the Titan had been carrying, and caused each spark that emerged to be born with a twin. They were these sort of micromaster duocon siblings who shared an intense bond. That meant that if one of them died, the other would experience bizarre effects such as not being able to transform anymore. However, this new population almost drove the native flora and fauna to extinction. But they themselves were pretty much wiped out by the Dark God himself, leaving only 100 or so Divisians left alive. As I said, these guys were generally micromasters, so pretty small, one exception being Euler and his twin sister Slide, who seemed much bigger than normal. They joined up with fellow brothers Gimlet and Bump and traveled to Earth in the hopes of enlightening humanity alongside their hero, Optimus Prime. They fought off a horde of ravenous Sharkticons unleashed by the Junkions, fighting to keep the enemy from boarding the deck of Metro Titan. Though Euler fought hard, it wasn't enough, and a Junkion caught him by surprise and sliced his head in two. He was avenged by Slide, who blew his killer to bits. As if that wasn't enough, and left unable to transform without her sibling, Slide had to watch her slain brother buried on an EDC base, which at that point housed the same Junkions who killed him.
Just great.
Now that I've mentioned Gimlet, he was not a twin, but one of 4 brothers that crash-landed into the middle of Beast Wars 2 to become allies of Leo Convoy and the other Maximals. Skyburst and Stormclash are another chalk and cheese pair, sharing a colour scheme, but that's about it. Skyburst being the righteous fight for all that is right kind of gal, whereas Stormclash is more the kill 'em all and let God decide kind of bot. Even before they joined up with Pyromagnus, Skyburst was saving Stormclash when she was about to fall into a black hole, saving her at the expense of their friend Fastbreak. And although it was left unspoken, this moment definitely reinforced their closeness. Anyway, when they joined the Victorion crew, they reported that being combined made them feel more united than ever before. And I know, no shit Sherlock, but I'm talking about a literal fusion of minds here. They did various good deeds, including defending a Middle Eastern girls' school from religious fanatics. I'm sure they appreciated not becoming slaves, and scaring away a group of zombified sweeps. They helped extricate some Junkion workers from a collapsed building. I'm sure they appreciate not being crushed to death, until Stormclash was killed in a combiner brawl with Monstructor, forcing Victorion to decombine, and Slide took her place in the Victorion lineup, and Skyburst was left watching her admission ceremony.
Great. Just great.
Now, although their character descriptions describe them as opposing chalk and cheese type characters, I found that the events actually portray them as loyal cooperative sisters who rely on each other in battle and in problem solving, with their twinhood strengthening their role as part of Victorion. Transformers Energon couldn't get the trademark for the name Shockwave apparently, so they called this guy Shock Blast. This guy was a nasty piece of work, killing enemies and allies alike. And yes, he had a twin, Energon Sixshot, who was the duo's weapon designer, before they both landed up in prison for trying to prolong the Civil War. Shock Blast staged a brutal escape, slaughtering the guards, then using Padlock to shield himself from oncoming fire, then executing him. He bargained with Megatron for passage off-planet, and in exchange, he would destroy Cybertron's vital energy towers. A huge blow to the Autobots. Now, I'm guessing they were in different prisons because Shock Blast made absolutely zero attempt to get his brother out. He would fall in under Megatron, but always chafed in the hierarchy, making several attempts to take leadership of the faction. One such attempt involved him trying to control Unicron and turn him against Mechs, but of course he couldn't contain all them evils and lost control, with Megatron taking control of the Chaos Springer and crushing Shock Blast to death. When Sixshot asked about his brother, Snowcat mistakenly told him that he'd been killed by Optimus in battle, prompting Sixshot to swear that he would one day get out and get revenge. After he did get out and made a few attempts on Prime's life, failed attempts, he tried to betray Galvatron. Galvatron stomped him to dust, Sixshot never knowing that it was Galvatron and not Prime that killed his brother. Dramas!
Oh, look at this mother. Mean robots.
Alright, let's do Skids and Mudflap, the Jar Jar of the Transformers franchise. Only slightly more racially stereotyped.
What do you mean, you people?
Constantly bickering, I don't know how Prime hasn't crushed these two yet. They can combine together to form an alt mode, or not. And they seem to swap alt modes quite often. Probably because they can never agree on anything. Or they blatantly have some kind of attention problem. Obviously, we all saw them baiting cons at the start of Revenge of the Fallen. I say baiting because I'm not sure what else their role in this situation is. Like, they sort of chase along, but they're too slow to be part of the actual chase. until they just fall apart, until their big moment and their big fight with Devastator. But they also defeated Ravage in the comics by dodging the Beast's attacks and then planting an electrical bomb on his body. At one point, Mudflap loses a chance at cover because he runs back to save Skids, putting his brother's safety above his own. In another storyline, they go underground together to clear their names after they were framed as traitors. And in Tales of the Fallen, they're captured by Flatline and tortured, leaving their brains a slushy mess. They participate together in the sting operation against Skystalker, Dive Bomb, and Fear Swoop, and during Sentinel Prime's betrayal right here, Skids intercepts a shot meant for Bumblebee, sacrificing himself. Mudflap reacts with fury, immediately lunging at Sentinel to avenge his brother's death. Sentinel kills Mudflap too, but at least acknowledges that he died a worthy Autobot death. So the moral of this story is that despite all their fighting, Mudflap and Skids act as a unit when push comes to shove. Mudflap often follows Skids' lead, like leaving Cybertron or the ambush plan, but he also repeatedly risks himself for his brother, saving him from Ransack and making stands together. So if there's any takeaway from this, it's that if you read the comics, they're not quite as useless and annoying they were portrayed in the movie. It's said that the nature of their split spark meant that Skyquake and Dreadwing could sense each other even across the vastness of space. Dreadwing vowed that the Autobots would pay for what happened to his brother, Skyquake, who had his guts ripped out by Bumblebee before being brought back as an Energon zombie by Starscream and being sent to a pocket dimension called the Shadow Zone to be antagonized by some annoying human kids. Dreadwing was furious and made it a matter of honor to get revenge, even risking his own life by disobeying Megatron's orders, until it finally caught up with him and he was killed for it. Dreadwing and Skyquake's relationship was clearly one of deep brotherly loyalty and respect. Skyquake's death and posthumous desecration defined Dreadwing's arc, driving him towards defiance, disillusionment with his faction, loyalty to which was obviously very important to him beforehand, and ultimately ended his life. Twin Twist and Topspin were jump starters, which meant that they could transform faster than other Transformers. Not just twins, but two bots that shared a branch spark, which is a rare condition that means the two of them can share each other's pain and feelings, and there's going to be a lot of pain and feelings. Another member of the Wreckers, Topspin, had a rep for taking on too many opponents at once and had to be bailed out by his brother. For example, here in a practice simulation when he took on both Bombshell and Blitzwing, but got in over his head when Dirge and Ramjet flew in and he didn't pull back, so he had to be bailed out by guess who. And later, his overconfidence pushed him, urged him on to take on Megatron, and he paid for it with blood. Twin Twist survived the initial fight, was left among the defeated Wreckers as Galvatron and Megatron slaughtered many survivors. Blur. When investigating con activity in the Amazon, Topspin rescued Bumblebee from a boa constrictor with his blaster. And then together with Twin Twist, they overcame Dirge's fear-inducing engines and blasted Starscream out of the sky, collapsing the Decepticon mining operation. Great success! In the Dreamwave continuity, Twin Twist drilled Menasor in the foot, bringing him down. Topspin followed up with a phase shot from his Electro Blasters. In IDW, it was Twin Twist that joined the Wreckers first. His brother Topspin followed, but only as a cartographer, but he somehow got drawn into combat when they went up against Squadron X. They both watched Roadbuster rip out a bot called Radar's spine and eat it. What the fuck, IDW? Yeah, he was on some kind of drug at the time. After the grueling battle against Thunderwing, many Wreckers, including Topspin, were taken prisoner by Turmoil. And although they were busted out by Cup & Co., something about this must have left a sour taste in the lineup of Wreckers because they disbanded and went their separate ways for a few years. After this hiatus, they reformed and bolstered their ranks. They went on that faithful mission to retake Prison Garrus 9 from the vicious Overlord. The focal point of their mission was to download the contents of a supercomputer called Equatus before it could fall into Con hands. But when Topspin felt a sudden explosion of pain, he knew that his brother had been captured and was being tortured. As it turned out, the supercomputer needed a willing spark to be sacrificed to open up and give up its secrets, so Topspin, feeling Twin Twist's pain and knowing that his death would mean the death of them both, yelled wreck and rule and ended his brother's suffering. They were both buried together on Earth. Oh, and these guys helped create a whole dimension. Yeah, the Legends world, helping this guy called Katsu Don by stealing an energy source called the Zodiac from Die Atlas and created the universe to make sure a causality loop without which a number of their friends would never come to exist came to be. Then they had to fight off Violin Gygar when he threatened the realm. The IDW comics expanded on the RC sisters' backstory. Now, to begin with, they were just regular sisters, not triplets yet. RC went to work under Optimus in the science division, whereas her sister Chromia went into the military defense force, headed by mechs. RC was involved in the discovery and study of the ancient relic that would herald the arrival of the Fallen, and play some role in Megatron's persuasion to join him. There were some ideological disagreements between the sisters, probably because of their loyalty to both their bosses, but by the time the Civil War broke out, they'd both fallen in under Optimus, and in one battle were given the objective to steal the Allspark itself. It was Elita 1 that was seen tempering Optimus's anger at one point, stopping him from going full psycho and killing everything and everyone to get to Megatron. And after all that had blown over, she'd been so shocked at seeing this violent streak in him that she found herself unable to speak to him for a long time. Later, RC would serve as a distraction so other Autobots could launch the Allspark into space. Yeah, I'm not really digging the Sin City vibe either. But she was captured and interrogated by the Decepticons, only narrowly surviving the ordeal. At one other point, RC had to watch Starscream strap Elita 1 to the Allspark itself, which leached all of her life force out. And here, she had to watch Chromia blasted and killed by Shockwave. Then there was the time her ship got shot down by Thundercracker. She awoke to find that the mad scientist Flatline had used all three sisters' bodies, subjecting them to a radical treatment using one spark to reignite those of her deceased sisters, who were all connected at the same spark, sharing the thoughts, feelings, and memories of one another. And that's what gave us the RC triplets, thinking with one mind, yet still retaining a degree of autonomy and recollection of their previous selves. But the triplets got their revenge on Thundercracker and Flatline, saved Skids and Mudflap, blew up the lab and escaped. In their new bodies, they'd later have a huge face-off with Skystalkers, Dive Bomb, and Fear Swoop. And although they managed to kill Fear Swoop, RC was heavily damaged, wounds which she carried into her next battle. Elita 1 battled past Astro Chain to try and warn Prime about Shockwave's impending arrival. Too late! As he stomped her and crushed her, before making some glib remark to her severed head. That's cold. As this happened, the remaining sisters shrieked out in pain, and their concentration was rocked, so they nearly lost the battle, only surviving because of Chromia's clever placement of these bombs, having to watch Elita die not once but twice, devastated not only the sisters, but of course Optimus, who watched over her makeshift grave made out of shipping containers before he left to get revenge on Shockwave. DW detailed how Sideswipe developed a combative personality because he always felt like he was in Sunstreaker's shadow, which only got worse when Sunstreaker ended up being his training officer and then strike partner. Sunstreaker, whether he realized it or not, always made his brother feel like a noob. After training, Sideswipe was given the job of minding Thunderwing's remains when he heard that his brother had disappeared on Earth, presumably kidnapped. He demanded a transfer to Earth, not wanting to save his brother out of brotherly love, but so that Sunstreaker would have to admit that he was now a capable warrior. Before he could get his transfer though, Galvatron attacked, and later Cyclonus, two enemies that were in a completely different league to Sideswipe. And this massive chip that he had on his shoulder, it meant that not only did he survive, but he fared pretty well, and that earned him his transfer to Earth. There, a confrontation with Grindcore and Straxus showed him that he didn't need Sunstreaker's approval and that it was only himself that he needed to prove anything to. After which he stated that he didn't care if his brother was alive or dead and went on to the next mission. Later, they were reunited when trapped on Cybertron, and Sideswipe recognized the bullying trait again when Sunstreaker started to blame Mirage for their predicament, resulting in Sunstreaker firing back with all the horrors that he'd suffered on Earth while kidnapped at the hands of the Machination. Later, it was Sideswipe that found Hunter, Sunstreaker's human headmaster partner, and saw how horrifically he'd been carved up by Bombshell. This is where what his brother was put through really hit home, and after a moment of reflection, he decided to turn Hunter's life support machine off. The brothers would have a warm reuniting later in the series, banding together to fight an army of Ammonites during a mission where Sideswipe managed to save Alpha Trion before getting stunned by grenades and then mercilessly, brutally shot by Brawl. Sunstreaker helped RC to rescue Sideswipe. RC was a really good friend of his, but he fell into stasis lock and had to be kept in a tube. It was here that Sunstreaker and RC used a Nemopathist projector to create an illusion in Sideswipe's mind where he returned to Cybertron to see bots and cons working together to rebuild in the aftermath of the war. Interestingly, his first priority seeming to be finding Sunstreaker and giving Soundwave one last beatdown. And once he did, Sunstreaker and RC gave him a little glimpse of the happy ending he'd always fought for. Sideswipe slowly worked out that it was just a dream though, and he thanked his friend and brother for showing him that he'd ultimately done good in the universe. Then decided to let go and slip away peacefully. Sideswipe was competitive to the end though, with only a couple of panels to go till his death. He was saying that whatever Sunstreaker could do, he could do it better. To me, that showed that Sunstreaker's vanity and ego probably made Sideswipe feel that he loved himself more than he loved his brother. But after the victory over Unicron, it was Sunstreaker left musing over his fallen brother, leaving me feeling that not only did he care, I think he wished that he could have told him. Okay, that's probably all I can get done right now. Thank you so much for sticking by me in what must seem like massive gaps between videos, especially if you're a member or a Patreon, because to be honest, I do need all the support I can get with this stuff. And trust me, I am always working on this stuff. Even when views are lower, I'm still going to keep churning them out because I love it. Let me know what you guys want to be seeing up ahead. I think the next one's going to be looking at all the female bots. So until then, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you very soon for the next one. Cheerio, bye.